Yes.
There's a bear market on our way, Pete Rizzo. Is this true?
Well, I actually was talking with Dylan LeClair here, and he was saying that the bull market is, quote, confirmed. He was on Dan Held's timeline, the most popular space for Bitcoin news.
Did I say that?
I don't know. Did you?
What did you say?
I think he said orange coin good.
Yeah, orange coin is good.
It is.
Confirmed. That is confirmed.
You were getting very bearish yesterday. It feels purely sentimental.
Is this... would you like me to...
I'm putting you on the spot. Explain why you're bearish.
Is this how the podcast starts? There's just no introduction?
No.
Who am I?
You're introduced
bear.
in the tweet. Yeah,
Okay,
what do you want?
right.
You've been on this podcast before, Pete. People know who you are.
Rizzo. I work for Bitcoin Magazine, editor over at Kraken as well. Currently, promoting the idea that we're headed back towards leaner times for the Bitcoin space. You know,
Why do you think that?
a time to reap, a time to sow. You know, I actually have a real metric for this. So it's the signal to noise, right? In the bull market, everyone reacts to everything as if it's signal. And in the bear market, what you start noticing is that no amount of stimulus could possibly motivate us, right? So, the good news today is, you sort of see people being very passive to it. So it's starting to feel like everything is noise, right? And so in the bear market, everything will be noise. In the bull market, everything's signal. And of course, neither of those things are true, right? So they're both just the market's perception. And I think the market perception is trending towards viewing all sort of good news about Bitcoin as noisy, right?
Yeah. I think back to 2015, that summer. It got pretty quiet on the internet in regards to Bitcoin, on Twitter specifically.
Mm-hmm, yeah. All we had was Bitcoin uncensored and, yelling at each other.
That's it wasn't even yelling at each other. It was like people were like actually sad. They're like, oh, it's dying. People thought it was dying, the whole space in the summer of 2015.
And look where we are on the eve of the largest Bitcoin conference ever to be held.
The largest conference ever.
That's what we call a professional segue towards the topic for marketing purposes.
Oh, are you running this podcast now?
Oh, oof.
Peter.
Taking a back seat.
God, you masshole.
Hey, I was invited here.
I want to stick on that, though. You missed Bitcoin Uncensored. I'm picking on Pete to start the podcast because...
this is a strategic...
We'll allow it. We enjoy watching Pete get picked on.
Well, you guys have an interesting dynamic. Pete was describing to me last night, the three of you particularly. What is your dynamic? Like, what's it like inside Bitcoin Magazine?
The halls of Bitcoin Magazine.
Wait, I thought we were picking on Pete.
Well, first you have to imagine Bitcoin Magazine. It's just this really lofty establishment, right? There's marble everywhere. So when you walk in, it's just, it's complete marble. And there's just many, many employees, right? So just your desks upon desks. Money, fine, gold embroidery as you walk down the halls. And we all have really large offices, like much larger than this, and with a lot more leather. Yeah, a lot more leather. Dylan, of course, has the largest office where he commands the Deep Dive, which is our subscription investor newsletter. So, of course, Dylan has his finger on the pulse of Bitcoin, right? Like, whatever's happening on chain, he knows exactly, right? So, like, there's all this data coming out on the chain, and Dylan is just, like, parsing that in real time. I
just look at a block clock.
He's just, it's like he's in the Matrix, right? He's surrounded by numbers, and he's really he's feeling that data. He gets the pulse of it.
Orange coin good.
Yeah, and then he translates that to us, right? So we can kind of go in. It's like that movie Minority Report, not to make like a really terribly specific reference, but yeah, it's like that he's in a pool of water, and then he tells us to be bullish or bearish, right?
Yeah, the ball comes out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And then the CK, I wouldn't pretend to speak for you, of course, because you're sort of at the highest. Like, you have to go up many floors to get to CK.
Yeah, I'm an SF, so complete shithole.
Yeah,
but moving to Nashville soon, so soon I'll be in the grandeur of the marble.
Right.
Are you excited to be in the thick of things in Nashville, BTC Media?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been posturing very, very loudly about the rise of Nashville as a Bitcoin city. So it is awaiting my arrival. I'm very excited, and we're going to make it big.
Yeah, you're going to make it big. The Bitcoin capital of the world, Austin, Texas. We look at Nashville and we say, hey, that's cute.
Yeah, no, we're scouting right now. This is what's happening is we're looking around, figuring out enemy territory. And
No, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Jurisdictional competition is alive and well.
Yes, it is.
It's part of the thesis.
Yeah, it is. We want competition, Austin, Nashville.
We're all in this together. That's a red flag.
No, I mean, like, we're on the information war side of things, are we?
No, I mean, I just hearing that term over the last 2 years.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
Team Bitcoin.
Brothers in the information war.
What's Bitcoin Magazine's information war strategy?
I mean, we're propagandists.
Oh, you all are, right?
Yeah.
You have to acknowledge that.
I think the official position is we're Bitcoin's marketing department.
No, God, no. God, no.
Just leaning in on the plebs, I think. You know, I think Bitcoiners are the smartest people in the space by far. So just trying to create a great platform for Bitcoin plebs to kind of, you know, shed their alpha, help the world out.
Well, let's talk about the history of Bitcoin Magazine in recent years, because you are an integral part of what many would say is reviving Bitcoin Magazine around the halving, right? Like, so what? CK and I recorded an episode that did not air, so we've already talked about this, but a lot has happened since now and then. But I think we need to rehash what was happening around the last halving. Where was Bitcoin Magazine, and what was your mentality to try and turn things around?
Yeah, so I know a lot of people who are listening to this were around back in the day, and Bitcoin 2020 was a thing that got wrecked by the pandemic. You know, this company, we go big on our conferences. We go all in. You know, David Bailey does not like to play it safe when it comes to throwing a big party. So that was the case then, and that was the case now. And 2020, things did not turn out very well for conferences in March. So we had to postpone the conference. That put the team in a pretty tight position, and the team got a lot smaller. And there's actually a period of time where there was like 5 or 6 people who were just pretty much working for no pay. Just like, we got to keep the lights on, make sure that Bitcoin Magazine looks alive, and get through it. And a lot of people watched that halving live stream, which you did a live RHR on. But the majority of that like whole production happened when, you know, people weren't even getting paid. So from there, you know, that production was a success. We were able to kind of like figure out the numbers kind of on the back end, and you know, hired back kind of like a core group of people, and, you know, just hustled, right? So it just kept it growing. And then from there, you know, we really, you know, we had already pivoted to Bitcoin only, but we hadn't pivoted to like only hiring like savage Bitcoiners. We hadn't like fully committed all the way. We hadn't gone Bitcoin as our treasury asset completely. Like, we hadn't kind of fully committed, but we kind of came out of that experience, and we just went so hard, like, on, you know, being as hardcore Bitcoiners as we possibly could be. And it just worked, man. Like, we started recruiting great talent, brought on Rizzo, brought on Matt Odell to advise, you know, discovered great talent like Dylan, and, you know, created like a community of Bitcoiners that like rallied around the brand. So it's been a journey. It's been a lot of fun, and, you know, excited to, you know, talk about the details.
Yeah, I mean, like, what is, in your guys' view, like, how do you view the mission of Bitcoin Magazine? Because when I think of TFTC, I'm like, all right, I started the newsletter particularly in like 2017, or a bunch of friends hit me up. They're like, is this true? Is this true? I was like, for me, I was like, all right, I'm going to start the bent because I'm going to teach my friends and family about Bitcoin and try to do it in a way that is approachable. That's why the tone of the bent is what it is. And I just thought there wasn't enough like quality information out there about Bitcoin, and like give it an actual like Bitcoiner's perspective on the world. Like,
well, it's actually funny, because I remember getting your you applied over at CoinDesk. I remember back in the day.
Yeah, no, we emailed back and forth. That was like right before I started the bent.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy's got such a strong voice. I think I commented on your stuff. I was like, you know, it's a strong voice, but you know, let that freak flag fly. You know.
Yeah.
Gotta go out there.
We can go back to my Gmail account and we can find.
We'll have to see what that looks like. Yeah.
Here, let me pull it up. Actually, we'll find it right now.
It's gonna be like, thanks for your submission.
But it's like
we get hundreds of emails a day.
What
For those of you who don't know, before Rizzo was at Kraken and Bitcoin Magazine, he was over at CoinDesk. So the man has built media companies in this space.
I'm not gonna. No, this isn't. Maybe it wasn't this email address. Maybe yeah, it wasn't this email address. It was my other email address. Yeah, but like, so I guess what is the state of media in the Bitcoin world in your mind? Like, do you like that we have like independent, budding, like personalities of Dylan?
I think the state of media is good. I don't know if Rizzo agrees with that, but I think that publications like Bitcoin Magazine are killing it. I think that there's a really healthy grassroots, podcaster, content creator, kind of community and growing effort. And if you I remember in 2017 I entered the space, and the only things that were Bitcoin only that I could find were Tone Vase's crypto scam and Bitcoin and Markets by Ansel Lindner. So, I mean, we've come a long way. I remember when you started your show, that was like 2018, and I was like, wow, okay, this is a next level podcast. So, I think that it's healthy. We're doing a great job of like creating tons and tons of content. And to address your original question, which is like, what's Bitcoin Magazine's goal? And I would say BTC Inc.'s goal even more is just accelerating hyper-Bitcoinization. We have this Bitcoin-centered mindset, and all of that is that Bitcoin is going to be the most important technology, period, and we just want to be the leaders in that.
Not to bring it too far back, but I think Bitcoin Magazine right now also exists in terms of providing signal to people that there is a Bitcoin-only option, right? That there are people out there who believe only in Bitcoin. The cryptocurrency media space has been largely defined by companies that are multi-cryptocurrency, right? And I think Bitcoin Magazine, and even Bitcoin Magazine was itself at one point a multi-cryptocurrency publication.
Right? Vitalik started it.
Even Bitcoin was only around back then. There wasn't anything else. It was actually the intermediate years, right? Like the 2014 to 2017, where they were, where it wasn't clear, I guess to the founders of Bitcoin Magazine at the time, right? The business decision was to be multi-cryptocurrency. Right now, I think, the strongest thing that Bitcoin Magazine does is it sends that signal that, one, Bitcoin only is a legitimate intellectual position. Two, the people there are passionate about that, and we're the outlet to communicate that. But, we have to remember that we're fighting within that context. Like, I was in D.C. a few weeks ago. There are some staffers there, they just think it's 1,001 cryptocurrencies. Just changing that messaging to being Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is huge.
Yeah, it's a massive lift. It is hard. It's hard to stay focused too. I mean, I haven't found it that hard to stay focused, but like for some reason or another, whether it's a fund, somebody building a product, somebody building a media company, it seems like the siren calls of everything outside of Bitcoin is so alluring to many in the space and there's a lot of money being made out there as well. Like, so
a lot of fast money. I think that's the key is, do you have the long term to kind of like give up the fast money for the Bitcoin vision? Like if at hyper-Bitcoinization, your position and your reputation, or, do you take the easy fast money?
Yeah. No, that's what's given me the most fulfillment, I guess, out of this little weird operation I've got going, is being able to look back and being like, yeah, I called bullshit on this, and people made a lot of fast money on it, but then it imploded. And
one of the best threads on Twitter is your just mapping of ETH 2.0. It's like literally like multiple years long. Like,
they successfully launched a testnet today.
Did they?
Did they?
Yeah, apparently.
Did you update your Twitter thread?
No, not yet. I should though. I do try to like include when they actually do something correct. I found our email, November 16th, 2017.
Thank you for your submission. We get a lot of emails every day.
No, our last, we had like a long back and forth.
Okay,
I'm not going to bore the freaks with it, but basically what happened was, I'm pretty sure I just started the podcast and you got back to me like a month after my last email. And then you gave me, you sent me a bunch of testing materials. It's a 3-day turnaround. Here's the CoinDesk writing test.
Yeah.
Here's the for business. Here's the CoinDesk writing test for markets. Here's the CoinDesk research test and the knowledge test.
Gotta have those knowledge tests.
Then I responded, "Hey man, thanks for getting back to me. While I really respect CoinDesk, I'm going to pass on the test."
Just don't want to do.
I was just too lazy. I was just like, it was like,
see, you eliminated yourself through not wanting to test. Right?
Yeah,
and then you found yourself here.
Yeah,
you're never going to be asked to test yourself again.
No. Well, that gets to another like so.
Are there tests for this? Like maybe. Yeah,
Am I a journalist?
Podcast test.
Am I a journalist?
Are you?
I mean, I write a daily newsletter. Is that a journal? Like, what is a journalist?
My friend called me a journalist, or like we were at a bar and they're like, "Oh, like what do you do?" And he's like, "He's a journalist," and I was like, "I'm not a journalist."
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think I saw the test. I'm like, I'm not doing these.
Are you a
tests.
person who seeks truth and seeks to promote, justice?
I like to think so. I don't know. Justice is the right word. Maybe societal
To
justice.
speak to the powerful. And
Is there a
hold the
journalist
powerful
alive?
accountable. It's a hard environment for journalism, right? One of the things that's really complicated is information velocity, right? It's hard to. I think journalism itself is still adapting to this question of like, what is journalism in an age where the speed of information is,
What it is.
right? Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Like journalism was, I think, something that needed the slow pace of like earlier distribution, information distribution. Like you needed to be able to sit down and like really only be able to create one daily paper, right? There was this scarcity there that now is no longer there. Maybe to draw it back to Bitcoin, right? You had the block that needed to be filled every day with the information. And there was a check and balance there, and I think a lot of that has eroded, right? And now I think a lot of it is journalism based on personal reputation. Right.
Yes.
So it used to be the reputation of the media outlet, and now it's personal reputation. Right. So what is your relationship with the audience? And does the audience trust you? And are you somebody who's open and honest? But that really has radically changed journalism, which previously was very focused on building institutions and things like that.
yeah, it's created it's weird. So I studied economics. I worked in finance, went to like a tech boot camp after I left finance, and was into Bitcoin the whole time. And then I was actually, part of the reason I started writing was I was looking to transition from finance to tech, and I wanted to be a product manager in just being a product manager for tech apps. I worked at a software development company that helped staff software development teams with offshore talent from Ecuador and Colombia. And so like I had experience interacting with developers and lining them up with projects. And so I thought, yeah, like I can get into product management. I know design, front end development. I think I have like a business savvy mind and I've led teams before on the lacrosse field. But the number one feedback I was getting is like, if you want to be a product manager, you have to prove to us that you can write about the product that you're going to manage. And so I was like, all right, part of the reason I started the bet was like, okay, Bitcoin is a product that people want to know. Like, I'm going to prove that I can write about it. And so like I got into writing, and then that way, and now I've been writing almost every weekday since like June 8th, 2017. And it's weird. Like I'm keeping people up to date with what's going on. But like, am I a journalist? I don't feel myself as a journalist. Like I just view myself as some dude sharing his thoughts. Like
I think everybody has to kind of come to that question, right? I don't know. I think right now what I would say with Bitcoin Magazine is I think we've balanced that where it's like we are a vehicle for people to build independent brands, who are speaking and doing creative work on Bitcoin, right? So it's like I think we've split that balance pretty well. It's like we're not trying to like control or shape things, right? Everybody within Bitcoin Magazine adds their own flavor, adds their own specific line of it. So that keeps the audience relationship strong, right? Dylan's got to go out there. He's got to publish his investor newsletter every day, and he's going to go and defend that position. And people now trust Dylan, right? After a year of his work, so I think that's an important part, right? Like media as a whole is just trying to find its way, and I think Bitcoin Magazine right now is a strong brand, but it's a strong brand because it's adapted to kind of the changing environment.
Yeah, and the changing environment has pissed off a lot of people who went through what they thought to be a traditional avenue to become like a legitimate journalist. And
well, I think that's one of I guess my advantages is that I have literally no real media experience.
Same.
And Rizzo has a lot of media experience. We have folks on the team who have a lot of media experience, but our approach has nothing to do with like the right way of doing things. It's just how do you get things done with the resources that we have. And thankfully, one of those resources is like the Bitcoin community, which is this like insane hive mind. So the fact that, we're tapping that no one else is
I would say Bitcoin Magazine has also been a great vehicle for multiple opinions. Like you get a range and variety of perspectives on Bitcoin Magazine. You could say that they're all, somewhat, Bitcoin focused, but there's a huge spectrum there, right?
Yeah. No, I think just in the last week alone, I mean, the in the mining industry, you have people who are like, oh, it's going to be like green energy driver as Bitcoin mining. And then you have others who are like the green energy revolution's making us worse off. Like Bitcoin mining is going to help us become energy secure, not just renewable energy secure. That is one narrative that I think could bite us in the ass in the future. If Bitcoiners like, oh, it's going to incentivize renewable energy production, which maybe it does, and a lot of people are like insinuating that X percentage of hash rate will derive from wind, solar, hydro. In the future, if that does not come to fruition, it's just like, oh, you said it was going to be this. Like,
Bitcoin has, and I think Rizzo can talk about this, but Bitcoin has a long history, or Bitcoiners have a long history of kind of misleading promises. So, it's.
Am I on the hook for that?
I'm not saying you're on the hook, no, but you know of those promises. You even know, you documented kind of Satoshi's quote unquote misleading promises even in the early days.
True. Fair. Well, I mean, look, I think we are as humans are understanding Bitcoin. That's the lens I take to it, right? Bitcoin is this invention. We have to try to understand it. I think Bitcoiners, we have had, you can look back at certain periods of Bitcoin. You can say that we commonly believed things then that we just no longer believe now. So my stance to the current market cycle, which I think is kind of ending, right? I think we're passing into a period where activity is maybe going to be a little lower. I think we're going to look back at this period and we're going to reflect and we're going to see that all right, when you go to the party and it's the bottom of the keg is all froth.
Foamy.
Yeah. It's been pretty foamy of late. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Right. And I think, some of that is just going to be stuff that gets filtered out, right? The strongest ideas survive and we'll move on. I think in terms of the mining market, I think, you've done a great job raising concerns, right? I think there is a lot of questions about what's going on. A lot of mining has been, moved out of China. It's moved across the world. It's now in the United States. That's great, but we don't know what the end result of that is going to be. We can try to de-risk it as much as we can, but you have to acknowledge that it brings risk, right?
Yeah. I mean, we just saw Kazakhstan confiscated $200 million worth of equipment this week.
Right, and Kazakhstan was supposed to be one of the big saviors, post-China, right? So we are dealing with proof-of-work mining. You want the advantages of anybody in the world who can access energy being able to generate Bitcoin, but the trade-off with that is that, you have a physical infrastructure. Your physical infrastructure is, liable to be attacked, subverted, or brought under the regime of the government. I've been particularly I don't understand why there aren't more businesses going down to El Salvador. I've been pretty open about that, especially on the mining side. I don't know why they haven't.
Well, the heat is one factor. That is.
They got volcanoes though.
Yeah. They're air cooling those units.
I guess how do you particularly deal with that? I'd be curious because you seem like you're pro America. I don't know if that's a
yeah. I mean,
and we've now brought all this mining infrastructure under the American regime.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Whenever, whether it be Cathedra or personally, I have personal mining operations. What I look for is a particular political climate in the state. Like it or not, people don't like when I get political, but I look for red states that are very respectful of private property rights and have shown a penchant to stand up against the federal government. I look for more temperate environments. I think Texas is a huge meme right now, but I think a lot of people, frankly, are LARPing and are going to run into a lot of problems pertaining to heat specifically, especially in the summer.
A lot of dust around here.
Yeah, a lot of dust. And then, yeah, I like off-grid, obviously. I talk about that. So I think being able to hide your operations or not hide, but make it more difficult to identify using grid fingerprints.
So you don't think Bitcoin is apolitical?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you said you were looking for red states to house your operations.
I mean, the protocol is certainly apolitical. The protocol has no idea if a Republican or a Democrat is using it.
Right.
The implementation of the infrastructure.
Maybe politics doesn't respect property rights equally, and that's the deal.
I think that's certainly the case. I mean, we've seen in the last 2 years, Florida, Texas, they certainly respect bodily autonomy, which is private property.
Bringing it back to the conference, one of the best effing decisions that we made as a business was January of 2021. We decided to move the Bitcoin conference from Los Angeles to Miami, Florida. And that was one of the best decisions we ever made, by far. Not even like one of the very best decisions we made. So
when you bringing it to Austin, that's the question. I mean,
no comment.
Bitcoin 2022.2.
You know, you know how all those cities were like lobbying Amazon to come to their city?
yes.
So Austin, we're accepting applications. Any other prospective city that would like the Bitcoin conference next year, hit us up. Contact at btcmedia.org.
I mean, the traffic in Miami.
So I recommend if you're going to Bitcoin 22, stay on Miami Beach. There's a good chance if you get a nice hotel, you can walk to the beach and the conference. You don't even have to worry about the traffic.
I don't want to like shit on the traffic. We're trying to sell tickets here. Use the code TFTC at b.tc/conference. You're gonna get 10% off. Yeah,
Bang.
No, but is Bitcoin apolitical? I want to get back to that. What are your thoughts, Peter?
Well, certainly the protocol is apolitical, but I think you can also be strategically apolitical with Bitcoin, and that's, I think, where we probably disagree. I think that your focus on Texas over Ohio or like Pennsylvania, states that could potentially swing elections, is interesting. You're choosing to kind of align with a certain political party that might not always advance Bitcoin. So,
I mean, Ohio and Pennsylvania, I mean, they're
purple states.
Purple,
you know, if it was me and I was investing in Bitcoin mining, I've been saying this up and down, it's that if you can prove that you can swing 1% of the vote in a purple state, you will never, any ballot politician that is up ballot from that will never be against you. And I don't think I don't think we're thinking about this very strategically, especially if we're thinking about making this, Bitcoin mining partisan.
Yeah, Pete, I mean, even though I have my operations in states that are redder, it doesn't mean I'm not talking to the purple states.
Okay.
I do a lot of talking behind the scenes as well
Okay.
with people in purple states. And blue states, for that matter.
There's people in all states.
There's people.
Dylan, what do you
everywhere.
think? Bitcoin apolitical?
I don't know if I have too much to add here. I mean, I kind of agree with the protocol being apolitical. I live in probably the bluest of blue states myself.
Lives next door to Bernie Sanders, actually.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm personally kind of fed up with a lot of the stuff that goes on.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah. And so probably personally looking to make an escape to somewhere of a red state. But I mean, I didn't vote in the past election. I don't really plan on voting at all. I mean, I said this on Twitter. I say this publicly. I vote with my wallet. And so, I don't really, the bipartisan game. I mean, I obviously align probably more with the red states, but.
Yeah, me as well. And in terms of its implementation, again, the protocol itself doesn't know who's using it, so can't censor based on political beliefs. But I think the implementation of Bitcoin as a sound money in the digital age is certainly a bit conservative.
Well, I think it'll be interesting. The conference will have politicians from both sides of the spectrum, right? There's Warren Davidson confirmed. Who else is on the list? Politicians.
So I think as of right now, there's a few more on the blue side that are going to be confirmed. But one is Andrew Yang, so I know there's a love-hate relationship with him, but I think he said some interesting things. And
it's just people that believe UBI. It's like
Bitcoin accelerationist.
Yeah.
I mean,
really?
Fiat is dead, so I mean they're doing UBI already, just only to corporations. So you might as well, finish it off and give it to the plebs too.
Yeah, no, but that's like one thing I truly. There's this whole like Bitcoin for progressives movement. I don't think the people who believe that understand that Bitcoin's, like it or not, forcing a certain.
I think this is turning into the Rizzo show, but I feel like he would strongly disagree on that one.
I'm opting
No, you're not. You're not allowed to opt out. What do you think?
What do you mean? What I think about what?
You disagree? Why? Where do you disagree? What?
The idea that Bitcoin aligns with conservative principles over liberal principles is I just don't understand where you would take that away. Like, what's your evidence for that?
I mean, like,
That it respects property rights. I mean, that's
yeah, no. I mean, there's the classical liberalism in terms of like redistributing.
well. So now you're talking about the implementation of the thing versus the thing itself, right? So
Yeah, I guess.
I think the current Democratic Party certainly has its problems, right? But you could have said that about the Republican Party 10, 12 years ago. You know,
I could say it, yeah, today
when
too.
it was, forcing unpopular wars on the people, and
It's funny how it's all shifted.
I agree.
Whoever is in power is just fucking terrible. That's just
Well, I
the
think you
reality.
have to. I think you have to separate like the Republican Party and the Democratic Party that exists today and have existed in different forms in the past from like pure political philosophy, which
For sure, you could argue that the current Republican Party is maybe more amenable to Bitcoin today and supporting it. I think that would be an argument that I would probably say is likely. But I think to say that there is one group that is necessarily predisposed to that, I just don't think is very. I just don't know. I don't see who benefits from us adopting that frame.
well, and then that gets into the whole question: is like the frame we adopt even matter? Is it inevitable? Is it inevitable?
So I want to try my hand at this. Honestly, I really like the Bitcoin for Progressives movement, not because I necessarily agree with all their ideas, but more because like I really see Bitcoin adoption as like this really incremental step for people as a whole, right? And people need to see these different kind of framings to start dipping their toes in. Yeah. So I don't care about being that right, and like Rizzo can tell you historically how hardcore Bitcoiners were really wrong. So like I don't care about being that right. I just care about getting people in.
Yeah, I do. So the Bitcoin American Dream, I was one of the co-authors of the section.
It's on this bookshelf.
On the shelf, nice. Of the section, Bitcoin is for Bitcoin is social justice, right? You think about these groups that have been.
I agree with
excluded.
this.
You agree with it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then why would you say that there is no progressive case for Bitcoin?
I mean, there is
and Marty, I think I should reframe because I care about obviously being right, but like I'm not holier than thou about what I think is right. I'm open to allowing just like people to grind and figure it out.
You call me holier than thou, my own.
I'm just talking about me. I'm just talking about me.
Hot.
But yeah,
I'm fucking with you.
Back to you.
No, but for me, it's like entitlement stuff. Like you can't redistribute Bitcoin automatically. It's inherently like a push system, so you can't force Bitcoiners to like.
But Bitcoin will make a more equitable world.
Right.
I completely agree.
Which ultimately I would argue is the classical case for progressivism.
Agreed. Classical liberalism was probably progressive. Most people have property rights.
Right.
We've just been so confused as a society.
Well, I think it's like, look, for people like myself, I mean, who traditionally lean left, I think some of these issues have been really interesting, right? I've been classically very supportive of the green energy movement, which, and I think the relevant criticisms that have been brought up by the Bitcoin community of late, I would also say that I agree with. I think that I didn't understand how the energy grid operated. I didn't understand that the solutions that like we were pushing for on the left side, that they didn't actually solve the root cause of the issue, which is that we still need to generate electricity through some type of energy, and that green energy doesn't solve that. And I think those are all good criticisms, right? And I think that's helping push the conversation forward. So I don't, again, I try not to buy into this like us them dynamic. Like I'm someone who can be like, I think all people. You have to believe on some level that all people can be given information and can make a rational decision that something is correct or incorrect.
Yeah. That gets back to what we were talking about in the beginning. How do we get people this good information so that they can make better decisions, right?
Right. Well, I think that the fact that Bitcoin is moving forward the conversation about green energy, it's bringing more nuance to that conversation, and it's presenting solutions to, I think, things that on the progressive side, like people have wanted to see, right? Like people on the progressive side who have sat for like 12 to 15, it's been 15 years since Obama's push for green energy, right? Like, and what have the results been? And the answer is next to nothing. And I think there are a lot of people on the left who are sort of like, well, why is that the case? And I don't see why Bitcoin can't plug into that from that perspective. So again, I just think that like this idea of, if you start thinking that some other group can't believe these things or that they just don't have the incentive, I don't buy that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, my thing all goes back to like redistribution of wealth.
I mean, the Marxists can have fun staying poor.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Or they can just make their own tokens on cryptocurrencies and get fabulously wealthy. You know? In the short term.
That's definitely short term. I mean, he's calling ETH heads Marxist, but
no, I'm not.
No, he does what he's doing.
He does. You think they're they are Marxists?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of
that.
let's just call it more current democratic ideas within the Ethereum community.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I mean, they just canceled somebody for admitting that he was Catholic.
I mean,
6 years ago.
they actually did confiscate and redistribute wealth like at the protocol level
Immediately.
So it's hard to kind of see them as being outside of that.
Yeah.
But I think that'll be interesting. Yeah.
I would say that that whole movement is just very skeuomorphic of the existing clusterfuck. So
I think they're very
label it
confused.
skeuomorphic, move on. Yeah, they saw this Bitcoin thing. They're like, all right, let's take blockchain and make it look like what we have already. You know, and they have like a freaking shitty digital calculator, pretty much.
Hey, Consensus just raised $500 million.
They did, and they invested it all in ETH, which was part of their plan to promote ultrasound money.
Yes. Ultrasound money. Ultrasound money. Sounds.
I mean, I think
Ultrasound.
that's a big reason why ETH plays so well with the current paradigm, because I truly think that like Bitcoin is a mental operating shift, and like a lot of the cryptocurrency space fits in with the current like mental model for how the world works, aka like, you know, it's a complete clusterfuck, and like Bitcoin is just not intuitive to that. It's just not, and it just takes time to bridge people over, and that's why I'm pretty empathetic to folks that need to bridge over. You know, I'm not mad at the progressive Bitcoiners.
Well,
I'm empathetic to them.
This is why I would say the argument is you need to get as many people to see your worldview as possible.
Yeah.
And like whatever means necessary to communicate that, as long as it's truthful, right? So you asked the question of what's a journalist. Well, I think a journalist is ultimately someone who speaks and is honest about things, and then is, you know, going to talk about things that maybe they don't want to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Talking about issues, right? You've raised issues, right? You're talking about the issues that might happen if the mining system gets captured. I think there's a lot of value in that, right? You might be a journalist in that moment. It's the same way that I make the argument about Bitcoiner. When you go to Starbucks in the morning and you buy your coffee with fiat, are you a Bitcoiner in that moment? And I think the answer is no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not in that moment making the best decision for the Bitcoin network.
What if I'm using my cash card to get sats back?
You might be a Bitcoiner in that sense. You know? You're supporting a Bitcoin business.
Well,
on
I'm
the
a piece
Bitcoin
of shit.
network.
Fuck me.
Well, this is what I'm saying. It's like I think one of the issues I have with the current like Bitcoiner movement is it's like it requires this like absolute buy-in, and there's just like no understanding that like decision making doesn't function on that level. You're not a Bitcoiner in this moment. Like right now, we're not providing any value to the Bitcoin protocol currently.
Shut the fuck up.
I'll see myself out. Thank you.
No, I can agree with that. I think there's a lot of LARPing, particularly in the West.
No, I was just saying, like sitting in this room, like
This
right
podcast
now.
is
Like,
pure
are
signal,
we
Pete.
providing-
No, before you said before. Oh, maybe we are. Maybe somebody.
I'm just
Maybe
gonna
we
stack
help.
right now.
Just buy it. Yeah,
Yeah.
just smash buy.
Uh,
Do it. Do the camera.
If you're
Shut
watching
up.
Smash Buy right now.
I'm helping the guy, Logan, who help us set up all these lights and these cameras. He's getting paid hourly in Bitcoin for this.
Right, but what I'm saying is, I guess there's a relationship, right? You're not always a Bitcoiner, the same way you're not always a journalist. These are like states you can be in the moment. You can choose to be these things. Dylan's right now is being a degen.
I'm a Bitcoiner.
Did you just buy? What'd you just buy?
About
You have a
$100.
Face ID on there.
Yeah, I'm not a Bitcoiner.
In that moment, you are not a Bitcoiner. When you use Face ID. are you a
Yeah.
Bitcoiner?
God.
We're gonna get into the purity
Did you
test.
buy? Did you buy that or no?
Yeah.
I'll buy. I guess. Where's my phone? All right. I'll do the smash buy. We'll do a collective smash buy. This
Smash
feels
buy.
right.
Okay.
The king of Smash.
My mother tried to call me.
Yeah. So like in this moment, we might be Bitcoiners. Maybe we're doing something that actively supports Bitcoin. I'm reinstalling Cash App. So
Rizzo hasn't bought Bitcoin so long that he has to reinstall his app.
that's true. Yeah. 2023, baby.
Oh my
Stack
god.
that bottom.
You guys get paid in Bitcoin at Bitcoin Magazine if you want to, correct?
Yeah, you get whatever percentage of your salary in Bitcoin.
Plus.
And we get bonuses in Bitcoin.
Mm.
No 401k, but we get Bitcoin bonuses, so
Nice.
I'll take it.
Bitcoin is your 401k.
Well, I think we're not talking about like how I think this conference is going to change the perception of people about Bitcoin, right? We're going to think for the first time have like a real mainstream presence at a Bitcoin conference.
What do you mean by that?
We're gonna have Sound Money Fest on the Saturday after the conference. This guy just bought some sats. Nice.
Joe Rogers says, "Wow, Pete Rizzo, cringe, barren, bad takes."
Yeah. Well, hey Joe, I shot guns for the first time yesterday, Joe. So
Be empathetic to Rizzo, okay?
Yeah.
He's slowly figuring it out.
Yeah.
Oh God, did Bitcoin Magazine retweet the tweet because we've got a lot of bot responses.
How much did you buy?
Oh man.
How much did you buy?
$100.
I bought 250,000 sats.
Yes.
That's the wrong way to
There you go. Dylan's not a real Bitcoiner. There you go.
All right, I'm gonna buy
Case in point.
120. I'll do 200. Why not?
Damn, dude, high roller. You buying dinner tonight?
Oh no, that's paid. I don't know how to buy this.
It has been so Bitcoin has been seeping into the mainstream conversation. Shout out to Mackenzie at CNBC who's
She's killing it.
been doing a good job.
Yo, I hooked Mackenzie up at last year's event and helped her get some VIP access. So I like to think that, I built up her Bitcoin career. You're welcome, Mackenzie.
You built up her Bitcoin. Why don't you say like I made her like amenable to like Bitcoin?
No, I just, got her into the parties. She got to network and then bam. There you go.
She's doing a great
rest is
job covering
history.
the mining
My
space.
first Bitcoin purchase since El Salvador Day, just completed. On the
Wow.
Marty Benz
Dude,
show.
you've been fucking bearish for a
The
while.
bear bought it. We're going to 200K by conference day. We're 3 weeks
Here
away.
we go, baby.
Well, back to that. So there's going to be mainstream musicians. You got Run the Jewels.
Steve
you've got
Aoki.
Steve Aoki. You've got
Logic.
Logic.
Dead Mouse. Dead
They
Mouse
all-
is a huge get.
they
How'd
all
you get
got paid in
Dead Mouse?
Bitcoin.
Unannounced. Can we talk about the comedy stuff that we're adding?
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
We've got Mark Maron, Hannibal Buress.
Oh,
We're gonna have.
is this day 4?
Yeah,
This
this
is
on
day
Sound Money
4.
Fest.
Okay.
So-
There's going to be mainstream politicians on the stage. I think, there's also this value of talking about your political theme. One of the things Bitcoin Magazine, I think, has done really well is scaling Bitcoin as counterculture. People who are apolitical, people who want to be outside the system. And I think there's a weird balancing act that's going to come up here
Yeah.
between the drive for some people to be political influencers and, for some of us who just want to, promote counterculture.
Yeah.
And abolish the federal government.
Yeah. That's what I would love to do.
What happened to you as a child? Like, what do you...
Yeah, Dylan. I mean, speak more. How did you get to where you are? What is it like you being the age that you are, which we will not say publicly?
What did the government do to you?
I was red pilled hard in 2020, like so hard. Well, red pilled, orange pilled, kind of in succession. I don't know. And Vermont also on the political spectrum is just so far left. Like University of Vermont in particular, it's like probably like 20% of the student body is like openly like communist without even knowing what that means.
Their lacrosse team looks communist. It's people with like long, dirty hair.
Yeah, I mean, our lax team's pretty good, I think.
You guys are pretty good.
Yeah,
You're the Bobcats, right?
Catamounts.
Catamounts.
Yeah, so I did a year there, and I liked school. In terms of what happened to me as a child, for my, I don't know. I just kind of just have a disdain for other people having control over my life without really having a say in it. I think bipartisan politics is kind of the illusion of choice, and it's frustrating, especially like with Gen Z and social media in general. Like in high school and college, like politics was such a big like talking point, and like people literally were like alienated for like liking Trump or being like Republican or red or whatever. And so like I was impartial, but like just the like total alienation of anyone that had a dissenting opinion or thought was just stupid in my opinion. Like I literally lost friends for being like, no, like I'm not voting for either of these puppets. And they're like, what do you mean? This is the most important election of our life. It's like, all right, like I don't.
So was McCain to get versus Obama when I was. It's always the most important election of your
Right,
life.
yeah. That's part of the buy-in of the system, right? It like requires you to it requires the stakes to be like meaningfully high, right?
Yeah, that's like the.
But that's why I'm worried about Bitcoin being caught up in that, right? I don't think we should want that.
I don't want that either. I like to think of myself as counterculture,
Right.
non-bipartisan. What I was trying to say earlier is just like I think there is like, sound money and its implications do not jive with what many on the.
It doesn't jive with the fiat world.
No.
So the entire fiat establishment does not jive with what Bitcoin is. So it's just a new system.
I think Bitcoin's operates in contrast to a lot of things. I feel like you could say that about most things.
Well, we don't even know what it's going to turn into, which is
What, Bitcoin?
yeah,
What do you mean by that?
like how it's applied.
I agree.
Like we the creative humans who are going to figure out how to use the protocol to do things we can't even imagine right now are.
Like
Absolutely.
What's an example of something that, like,
I mean, the ways in which you can like hook into the internet protocol stack and then do unique things with that. Like, I don't even think we brushed the surface of how that's going to.
what's one of your like far out ideas? Like that you think it might happen? I don't know. When people say oh, we don't even know, I'm like, well, there's a field of possibility, like, you know.
Marty, are you talking about Web3?
Yeah. Well, Web3, I think Web3 will be done properly on Bitcoin or using Bitcoin. I don't think it's on Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's just a piece of Web3. This going out to podcasting 2.0 is Web3 in my opinion. Just combining RSS feeds and Lightning addresses in and of itself is...
Bitcoin is the incentive for the personal server revolution, and the self-hosted web is the future.
Yeah.
That's how I frame it.
I'm trying to answer Pete's question. Like, this is like a hard question to answer. It's like, what is something you think is unfathomable to be built? It's like, I don't know. Can I even think it?
Well, I think right now, like your comment is interesting because I feel like Bitcoin has kind of been in a large period where we've sort of narrowed down the use cases of Bitcoin to you hodl Bitcoin, you're like hodl it for your future, and you just stack, right? That's kind of the mentality. And you just said was, oh, there's like all these possibilities with Bitcoin. We don't even know what people are going to do.
What was the original intention of the butt box? Do you remember?
That's a good question. Yeah. So it was that you could experiment and run Bitcoin code, right? Like yourself.
No, but what was... I think Balaji had the right idea, but he was too early. The machine payable web.
Right. The machine payable web. That's right. I forgot about that meme. Yeah,
right.
Didn't catch on.
Did not catch on. But I think he was right. It was a bit too early. I think now with like the Lightning Network, you could potentially enable the machine payable web. An example of that is I remember somebody making a prototype, a working prototype, an application that allowed them to pay for a Tesla charging system connecting with Tesla's API over the Lightning Network in real time, like sats for electricity, second by second. As soon as you unplug, stop paying. That's machine payable web. That's your car with a Lightning Network wallet injected into it, communicating with an electricity provider, providing outlet and saying, all right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think the progressives would be super into that.
Yeah, I do too.
I'll throw out a big idea. Like, honestly, a lot of people don't think of like Bitcoin being able to fix our fresh water problem. And
what
like
is our fresh water problem?
Where we locate civilization. Well, I mean, we're really limited in where we can locate civilization. I mean,
when it comes down to water problems, why aren't we rain collecting more? That's my number one question.
But again, like what I'm trying to say is like, what if Bitcoin?
All that rain just going to waste, going to the plants.
Right?
You know, you can't have the plants having all that water.
Am I an idiot for thinking that?
It's us versus the plants. I agree.
Is it us versus the plants? Is that
you got to draw that line? You know, they've been sucking up our water for too long.
Wait, no, is that the case against rain collection?
I don't. I'm just like, I don't know. This is literally the first time I've ever heard anyone talk about rain collection.
I just like. Everybody's like, we have water problems. Like, it rains. Like, why don't we just make rain collection?
What will the plants consume?
I guess that's like the
what if you want to live somewhere where it doesn't
rain,
but there's salt water?
What if you collect so much rain that the plants die and then we don't have any oxygen anymore because of the...
Well, you can ask.
This is another thing the progressives would care about.
What if you catch... Well, they should care about it in regards to solar energy. What if you catch so much solar that it doesn't reach the ground, those plants under them can't grow? That's true. You know?
I agree. Yeah, there's problems
a balance
with all extremes.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop a thread. How to fix the water solution problem.
Just start collecting it.
I mean, I was just trying to make a comment about how I think Bitcoin is going to expand our energy capacity to levels that we have never seen before. And then all of a sudden you can desalinize, you can do so many different things that were, foreseen as impossible.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, because Bitcoin has its incentives, changes the dynamics of our grid, it completely revolutionizes how we organize, what we can do on an individual basis, et cetera, et cetera. Like I really I think thinking big about Bitcoin, something that Bitcoiners need to do a lot more. Like, stop worrying about altcoins, stop worrying about this little petty bullshit, start thinking like, what is this thing going to do to the planet? Try to transposition like the incentives and how that plays out. Like try to think about what adoption looks like. I feel like these are the kind of conversations that we should be focusing on.
Yes. So maybe this is a good riffing off something you just said that could be a good answer to the question that you posed earlier, which I don't think is obvious to most people. You said our grid, and that's like the way people think about this. Like grids are extremely centralized in the U.S. and all across the world. Texas may be an exception to that rule, though I think Texas is making a big mistake overproducing too much unreliable. But besides the fact, grids are extremely centralized right now, and I don't think people like what. It's becoming glaringly obvious to somebody who's been like in the off-grid mining world for a few years now and is seeing where it's going. I think what we're going to see is a number of grids, like an explosion in the amount of grids. What the Bitcoin network right now is enabling microgrids to be built out in parallel to the mega grids that we depend on these days. And I think there will be crazy benefits to that, and people don't even realize it yet. Like just building these.
Yeah, I was telling CK earlier. I think one of the things that was, are you talking about earlier conversations in Bitcoin? Like, I don't think anybody early on really envisioned the idea that like mining's impact. I think we're just starting to get to the point where it's like if Bitcoin is a expanding system, it's starting to become so large that we're starting to see these energy benefits. But like, I don't remember anybody talking about this even 4 or 5 years ago.
No. I mean, Hal Finney talk about it though.
Yeah, tweet number 2 is about the CO2.
Thinking about
impacts.
how to de-risk the proof of work CO2 impact.
Yeah.
His less popular tweet to running Bitcoin.
And working on Bitcoin, how to make Bitcoin more private.
Those are the first 3, I think. Yeah.
Legend. Fucking legend.
He'll be back.
Yeah, he's out there. He's just hanging out. Nitroglycerin.
Cryogenically frozen? Is that the word?
Nitroglycerin is like an.
I'm sorry, I don't know about cryogenic freezing. Enlighten us.
Cryogenic.
Isn't that how they store them?
Isn't nitroglycerin like an explosive?
I think that's what Mr. Freeze gets like frozen at the end of Batman and Robin. It's before your time.
Did you not remember Mr. Freeze with Poison Ivy?
Arnold Schwarzenegger like wasn't popular at all during your life, huh?
No. I've never even watched Terminator.
Oh, dude, T2 is great. T2 is a classic.
I've watched Arnold's like workout videos on YouTube though.
Okay, well, let's
try to get yoked.
As long as you got some exposure. You know. What's Arnold's position on Bitcoin? He'd be a strong supporter. You know, he leans right, but he was California governor.
He wasn't a big fan of bodily autonomy over the last 2 years. So
it's kind of pathetic.
Yeah, I don't know. He's probably too old to worry about it. The olds are like, I'm too old.
The olds.
Well, I mean, look, Bitcoin solves a problem for that generation, right? They're worried about wealth and inheritance. I just think that, you know, some of the subject of this conversation is, you know,
rich
you can
olds.
either think strategically,
rich olds,
or you can think myopically and try to keep narrowing the us versus them dynamic. You know?
Okay,
you're locked in, buddy.
Pete. All right. No, I agree.
You know, I don't know.
I agree. Just sorry, it can be a little.
When's the last time you were in a blue state, man? You gone on vacation over there? Like,
I mean,
you don't want to go to blue state. I'm trying to leave blue states here. Let's be honest.
I mean, Pennsylvania isn't really a blue state outside of Philadelphia, so it's like hard.
It's purple. You know?
Yeah,
swings one way or the other.
Yeah.
Bodily autonomy is underrated, and I don't know if Bitcoin fixes this, but you know, we're living in a world now that we need people who respect bodily autonomy to buy the Bitcoin. I definitely agree with. I think that needs to happen.
Yeah, it is happening to some extent. And we get those, to Pete's point, those who don't respect it, maybe they should get Bitcoin too. Maybe it'll help them respect it. Because
I think Bitcoin is a tremendous teacher, right? And I think we should encourage people to interface with Bitcoin as much as
I do as well. I would never encourage somebody not to get into Bitcoin.
Really?
What about Klaus Schwab?
Get in. Get in,
By
Klaus.
now, okay.
Get in, Klaus.
Bitcoin for central bankers. That's what we need to make. We need to make like a fake report and just send it to them. And just really, it's just all about how like their job is like, you won't need to work anymore because you can take all these vacations. But it should look like a professional like IMF report. Like, we'll have like a cover with like lots of people, different.
No more needing to go in front of Congress and sweat.
Yeah, instead of money that is like, randomly auctioned at the whims of these like random individuals who no one elects, it's a protocol. You have a reliable, you asked why I was bearish earlier. I think one of my things is that, Bitcoin does allow coordination around money, right? And that coordination is there's going to be lean times, and there's going to be hot times. So you got to take the good with the bad.
Why does coordination dictate that there's going to be lean and in hot times?
I don't think it's the coordination aspect; it's the halving aspect, because the monetary policy is predictable. So therefore, you can coordinate around the monetary policy.
But you can't predict the demand, right? So that's the other.
I think at this stage in Bitcoin, it seems certain that you can predict the demand.
No, you can't.
Paging Dylan.
Absolutely.
No, you cannot.
Absolutely.
You can't predict that Russia's going to
I can't predict that
Ukraine or that.
I can't predict that Putin will not buy Bitcoin, but I can certainly bet on the fact that it's overwhelmingly likely that no nation state within the current geopolitical conflict will allocate any meaningful resources to Bitcoin.
Let's take the mic away from the bear.
I mean, I think if you're going to be bearish at all, it's not because of Bitcoin's programmed monetary policy, but rather the unpredictable monetary policy of fiat over the short to intermediate term.
I just think human beings, they're able to act dynamically and they're able to take advantage of information towards their own benefit. So if you know that Bitcoin is going to be entering a period where we're far away from the halving, a bunch of moon boys are hopped up and they're no longer excited about things, and I know that in the future they're going to get bored and sell. Why would I?
I love your perspective, and Tina has a great take on folks who thinks that the way that you think, and that's that you're going to have less Bitcoin. You're gonna have a lot less Bitcoin. I mean, I personally think that yes, Bitcoin is gonna act this way until it won't. The game kind of changes as soon as that you think you know the game. So
you're viewing it as just like the pure. That description makes it sound like a pure get rich scheme where
I don't think so. I think you can coordinate around Bitcoin for your economic benefit in this current period of Bitcoin.
What about its inherent utility that in many places around the world is the only avenue to access that utility?
Those people don't have the ability to take advantage of that as we do. You do that all the time. If you don't, anytime you're not spending Bitcoin, you are taking advantage of your ability to arbitrage your life between the two systems. So you're saying that that's just a weird perception to have that you're not.
I actually agree with you with that statement.
Right.
What do you mean?
You every Bitcoiner currently lives their lives arbitraging the two systems for their benefit. That is the current system we live in. We are not pure Bitcoiners. We are currently economically advantageous actors.
So wait, really quick, your definition.
Saying we all need to get on zero? Is that what you're saying?
Your definition of a Bitcoiner is someone who's fully in the Bitcoin
I don't
overlay.
have a definition of Bitcoin. I don't think Bitcoiners exist. I think your actions.
Yes.
I think your actions either align with Bitcoin or they do not. And I think part of being a Bitcoiner is accepting the fact that a lot of your actions don't align with Bitcoin.
Wait, you just said Bitcoiners don't exist.
Right.
So how could part of being a Bitcoiner?
People who are interested in people who are
Ladies and
interested in
gentlemen, we got
Bitcoin,
'em.
people who claim to be Bitcoiners, you guys win. You guys won. It's going to 200.
No, it is weird though.
By conference day.
It is weird that we live in this temporal anomaly where the concept of a Bitcoiner, we'll look back in history and be like, what? Everybody's just using Bitcoin. It's just weird. Everybody will touch Bitcoin.
My point is the argument that you think I'm making is just the present state. That is,
yes.
You're just describing what the actions of people are, but you're sort of saying that I have some different perspective on what's going on than you do.
No, I just
I'm saying that people right now act advantageously to Bitcoin. They save in sats and they spend fiat. Thus, they arbitrage the two systems for their benefit.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're saying that won't increase?
I'm saying that is
Because
likely going to continue up until the point where it is not impossible to occur.
Okay.
Right, as long as you can take advantage of that system, why not?
I'm just going to keep passing it back to Dylan because Dylan does talk about this a lot. You did a podcast with Stefan about how to take advantage of this arbitrage opportunity, why that is appealing. I mean, do you want to kind of like maybe give a little bit more light onto like how people do that? And I agree with what you're saying. Like for me, like I save in Bitcoin, I spend in fiat. Like that is an arbitrage. But obviously, if you're too poor to save in Bitcoin, or you don't have access to a working fiat system, maybe you don't have that luxury. You actually just have to constantly be in the Bitcoin overlay. But I mean,
am I addressing why Pete said he's a bear and he's not buying until 2023, or?
I'm out, baby. 2023. Back that bottom.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, talked about like if you're talking about like fiat and Bitcoin existing in parallel and like the arbitrage that exists, especially with like capital market interest rates and like the speculative attack, leveraging fiat liabilities to stack Bitcoin on the asset side of your balance sheet, like that's happening at scale. It's going to continue to happen. Is
your home loan in Bitcoin? Like, are you somehow taking out like a home loan in Bitcoin that I'm not aware of?
I don't know shit.
So then you have financial instruments that are denominated in fiat that you currently use.
I don't have a mortgage.
Oh, okay. I do.
Shitcoiner.
Yeah. But I guess the point I'm trying to make, maybe you would agree with me, Dylan, is you can't time one side of the arbitrage.
What do you mean? The chart's literally like a static wave pattern.
I'm talking about the other side of it.
What's the other side?
I mean, the U.S. dollar and people's faith in that.
Ah, right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But it seems like people really like the U.S. dollar, just overall.
Right now, you don't think that's changing?
I don't know. I was in Lebanon at the end of last year. They seem like they're pretty excited about the idea to be in the U.S. dollar and to use it. They don't want other alternatives to that.
At the end of last year.
Yes, I was in December. I went down to Lebanon. I was writing a profile about safety and for the Bitcoin magazine.
And how much has changed since you were in Lebanon?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, they're using Tether, but like this is part of the process, right? And I don't know if everyone agrees with this thesis, but the way I see it is that step one is hyperdollarization, and that is expedited via Tether and other sort of like evolutions to the dollar stack, and then step two is hyperbitcoinization. I personally, I'm like have the unpopular opinion that CBDCs are something that will never ship. Like I think it's just a complete LARP.
The countries can't even ship a healthcare website, let alone like a whole CBDC.
I mean, in the dollar, it's about monetary
criticism.
What?
Was that like a 09 Obama era criticism?
Yeah.
That's a deep one. You really went back in history for that one.
No, that didn't get implemented until like 2014.
Like there's a working
2012.
healthcare.gov website for sure.
Y'all, if you get any unemployment check, if you get any unemployment check, your social security number is within the within the username that they assign you. So the last 4 digits of your social, aka what they used to verify you across the web and across financial institutions, they just plop that right into your username. So yeah, they're really competent. Another reason, and don't shoot me here, I think that altcoins are great because they're a fucking hydra to DDoS regulators. How many 2017 era shitcoins actually got prosecuted? Illegal securities actually got prosecuted. Very few of them. Like maybe they're trying to go around and actually go to the exchanges that listed them all legally or illegally, but
who'd they get? They got Kin.
Wow.
They got BitTorrent kinda. Or sorry, not BitTorrent. What's it called? BitConnect kinda.
BitConnect,
They kinda got BitConnect.
BitConnect was like wholly separate. Did they even use was it even ever a blockchain?
I don't know. It was a Ponzi scheme. Who cares? I'm just saying, like, they can't deal with this shit. When are they going to get to the NFTs?
I mean, summer of...
like in 2029?
Summer of 2018, Bitcoin Sign Guy came on this podcast, and he described it, posed the question, what do you think of shitcoins? He's like, yeah, they provide cover as we go build out this network. I agree with that.
It's a straight DDoS.
And I agree with stablecoins, too. I've had Matt Alborg on the show many times throughout the years, and it became quite obvious via his research at usefultulips.org that people in emerging economies want stablecoins.
Yeah.
The question
overwhelmingly, yeah.
Yeah, the question is though, like,
I think we're in the end game.
yeah, the confidence.
I love the dynamic. These two on Slack are hilarious. If y'all aren't on Bitcoin Magazine
Come
Slack,
on.
you
That was
missing out.
literally a knee slapper for you.
Come on, we're in the end game. Like, what is it? Like, what's so special about this time in history? There was like.
What do you mean what's so special? This is like one of the most special times in
nuclear
history.
threat. Like there was there was the Nazis in like the 1940s. Like, what's?
Well, we're in the end game of global fiat currency.
Okay.
I mean, okay, Fed funds at 0, inflation at 40, soon to be 50-year highs. They've already done 10 years of quantitative easing. They can't materially raise interest rates. The credit markets are actually in the midst of breaking, and they haven't even tightened at all.
That's like the mechanical, technical aspect of it. Socially, though, there's a social aspect to it. I think people are losing confidence quickly.
Well, Russia was a big lesson. Like Russia, Canada, in succession, that showed the West and anyone in the East to believe that the American property rights system actually mattered anymore. That it doesn't. And, even if you're investing internationally in Russia, guess what? If you're caught up in the crossfire, then your property rights don't matter either.
Let's just address the elephant in the room. Let's just say that Dylan's correct about this being the end game. The Bitcoin network is not currently equipped to handle
This
that.
is the elephant in the room
Well,
right
that is
here.
actually
Okay.
the elephant in the room. But the Bitcoin network itself could not handle that demand.
No,
so
God,
so you
no.
don't actually want that outcome. Even if you're predisposed to thinking what you think, then you would admit that the current network is very limited into its ability to actually handle global commerce at the scale that it would require.
8 more years. We'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean maybe then, yeah.
Well, I think that would be. Yes, I agree. Network certainly needs a bit more reinforcing to get to that point.
And if we
you don't-
used it for daily commerce, maybe it would improve more.
potentially, but again, I think that's wholly separate from what we're talking about, which is.
I just think
outside of Bitcoin.
I mean a lot of me and Dylan's conversation are I fundamentally just don't believe in doomsdayism. I think it's almost never correct.
I'm not a doomer. It's we are potentially facing one of the biggest recessions ever in 2022.
Well, I'm trying to just look at what's going on. Saudi Arabia met with China today to talk about doing oil trades in yuan over the dollar. You have a commodities crisis that's only going to get worse. You have a supply chain crisis that's only getting worse. And then
But don't you find it very pessimistic that you just don't think people will solve these problems in the short term? That's just a weird outlook to have, that you just think that these problems can't possibly be solved by the free market. Let's just take your perspective that the market solve problems. Then why are those problems not big enough to meet a market demand and be solved in the short term?
again, these problems. Again, it's not whether or not they can be solved. I do think they can be solved. I don't think they can be solved in the short term. But they're massive problems right now. You can't materialize wheat in a moment's notice.
You can eat something else.
I mean, Rizzo,
you could if you wanted to, but
the market will solve this, but a lot of the reasons why these things are happening are non-market reasons, right? So it takes time. And personally for me, this conversation, it's Bitcoin has been progressing in a really, in my opinion, impressive way. It has progressed in an impressive amount in 12 years. And when you look at a lot of other technology adoption, especially technology that Bitcoin's built on top of, the mobile network infrastructure and all of the other networks that Bitcoin, relies on, this stuff, escalates really quickly. And
Sure, but at the same time, there's also still physical commerce. You can still walk into a store and buy a shirt.
Sure,
so
but
there's not this idea that this change between these systems is going to happen radically.
you can walk into a store and steal a shirt right now in San Francisco
Yeah, sure.
and not have to pay shit.
But I mean, again, that's kind of the interesting thing is Bitcoin's this alternative system that is working. Yes, it's small, but it's working. And then on the flip side, the existing system that people rely on is falling apart. So there's kind of this really nice and gradual shift. And yeah, it can be traumatic for some folks. Let's say in Ukraine, you get the traumatic, but
I'll find my criticism of this. If you believe that Bitcoin is a pure free market system and that ultimately all of commerce gets rebuilt on that system, why is it that you don't think that a system that is not free market can compete with that in the short term, and then could even do like extreme things like just reset like basically all economic activity in there? Like,
I mean, the existing system is definitely free market. It's just also manipulatable. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like I would say like we're on a dollar standard, and that was a free market emergence over time. Go for it.
Do you guys believe there's an order of operations to all this?
Yes.
So,
what does that mean?
things have to like if we want your. So I've come to the belief that there is an order of operations to this, and again, falling down the mining rabbit hole, I think Bitcoiners have been looking at it all wrong in terms of like adoption, like merchant adoption, big meme. Yeah, 2013, 2014. Obviously, that's what spun off Bitcoin Cash. You're talking about it now, people adopting, using, spending Bitcoin. But again, below that is mining, hash rate, which is very tightly connected to energy. Like you get, I think it starts with energy. I think the first merchants, important merchants that will lead to mass adoption are energy producers, like not your bodega. Yes, it would be cool if your bodega.
Yeah, but
did
what we're
accept
talking
Bitcoin.
about when we're talking about like Bitcoin's competitiveness and the macroeconomic involvement is there's always this evocation of this future where like people will just, the system will fail on some level and they'll like be, you know, people will have to flood into the Bitcoin system. There's some part of the analogy that's always used where this is the construct. And I'm just saying, like, I don't accept that construct. Like,
it's failing, but it's not evenly distributed.
Right, I agree with that.
Like it failed in Ukraine and Russia, it failed in Ottawa. Like it's like kind of like falling apart, and the cracks are showing. The water is seeping out, and for again those who have the asymmetrical advantage, you know, they're taking advantage of it. A lot of people are losers in this process. Obviously, it's painful. But like I don't know. I always zoom out, man. It's not like I don't think that you're wrong. I just like.
I mean, the Soviet Union lasted for how long? Close to 100 years.
Yeah,
no, the Soviet Union did not last for 100 years.
Then you get into the whole information. Like, yes, there is asymmetrical information distribution right now. However, the capacity for information spread via the digital world accelerates the pace of things. Like the Soviet Union lasting as long as it did, maybe you can make the argument it was due to the facilities or the ability to facilitate information transfer was much slower.
The logic of violence is changing. Shout out to the sovereign individual.
Yeah,
but
like
I agree.
People had to sneak books into the Soviet Union to actually get subversive ideas in, where today somebody can link in a Tor or VPN and access it.
Yeah, I feel like there's the thing where, you know, your proximity to information also biases your thought on that information. So right now as Bitcoiners, we're like sort of very biased towards this like macroeconomic data. But I find a lot of it fascinating. I read the deep dive. I think a lot of the stuff that you lay out is very interesting. But I think that like we ascribe a lot of meaning to this data. And the issue is not with the data, it's not with the theory, because I think the theory can be correct. And I think that there can be long-term problems with the fiat system. But I think that doesn't really necessarily always equate into immediate or even short-term issues. Like you just might see that not materialize, and then then you have to change your whole thesis on.
I mean, we've seen it time and time again in the Bitcoin stock to flow, right? Like,
well, look, that was something that 6 months ago everybody accepted that.
I'm so happy I never pushed stock to flow.
But like, and now it's like that guy is the biggest pariah. Like he'll never be allowed back in anywhere. What is the legacy of Plan B's stock to flow model? It's not good. It's not going to be good. I think it was
fantastic propaganda. Oh my god,
it was great hopium at the 3K bottom.
And I have big trust in the Bitcoin process. I have the biggest trust in the Bitcoin process. Like everyone's hating about Plan B. Like y'all, Plan B orange pilled so many fucking people. Plan B created a framework for people to understand.
Or did he give them unrealistic expectations that were not delivered on?
Whatever. This is Hyperbitcoinization.
Bad taste in
now
the
people,
maybe, but this is the process. It's just the process, and like people need framing. People need people need to be moved into the direction of the Bitcoin overlay.
If we're constantly crowing about the system failing, and then over years the system doesn't fail. Like at some point, you need the system to actually fail to be correct.
No. I mean, the system has failed. It already failed.
Yeah,
Most people
right.
just haven't recognized it yet. That's the you objectively like. Yep.
I mean, my life seems all right. I'm walking around. I'm like, I ate at a restaurant this morning. We went to a coffee shop. We had
Check your
reasonable-
financial privilege.
Yeah, wait. Talk
Like-
about Lebanon and how life was like seemingly fine and falling apart simultaneously.
One of the weird things about it. So I went to Lebanon. They're experiencing hyperinflation, right? Like that their dollar is actively being devalued against pretty much everything. And like the thing about hyperinflation that I experienced was that it seems very normal. It's like all the same stuff is there. Everybody has the same relationship to each other. You go into a restaurant, people are eating at restaurants. It's not a humanitarian crisis. There's not people in the streets who are dying all of a sudden because they're a hyperinflation. It's very different. I think we like in
It's a frog boiling in water, though.
Right,
Like
I
life
agree.
is getting progressively worse.
And
Supply
it will
chains are
continue-
breaking
yes,
down.
and it will continue to
Like-
get worse, and it will become a humanitarian crisis. But at least in the short term, you're able to live under extreme hyperinflation without really any disruption in your daily life.
Human beings can deal with extreme situations. Like the COVID lockdowns
So-
are an example of that.
I think this is a question of time horizon, right? Like, yes, day-to-day life, you may be able to go to a restaurant, you may be able to have some laughs, have some beers with your friends, but over time, like the system has failed people, families, individuals who probably could have had a better life.
Great, yeah, and
And
they
then,
need an alternative, but they think the alternative is almost unanimously. They think the alternative is to go to the U.S. dollar, and I think what is very interesting is that even the Bitcoiners there, because of they're effectively debanked, they are buyers of the crypto economy first. They have to buy Tether. Even the people who want to stack sats and buy Bitcoin there, they have to purchase U.S. dollar stablecoins and then convert them to Bitcoin on exchange because they're debanked.
Yeah.
So if that's the situation today, if the situation of hyperinflation is that people who are debanked have to buy Tether in order to have financial access to Bitcoin, and those people still prefer the dollar, then I would say that Bitcoin is somewhat a weaker position than it could be within that environment.
But okay, I mean, I hate that fucking argument because you have to like look at it at the spectrum. So like here is like this massive spectrum of liquidity. Bitcoin is like number 20 amongst all fiat currencies. Like let's have this conversation when Bitcoin's number 8.
It's actually the 6th largest.
But as
base
long
money
as the
right now.
volatility continues to range with Bitcoin, as long as it is very volatile, people who are looking for alternatives to volatility are always going to want something that is not volatile.
You're always going to want the thing that the world is priced in, but guess what? Soon that's going to be fucking sats because it's actually stable. And I mean, again, like you have to like take these things into the context, whereas like we live in a dollar world. Obviously, fucking permissionless dollars are going to be preferable. People they're like literally their mental operating system is the dollar. It's actually ridiculous to expect them to not like default to their mental operating system, which is why I'm so empathetic to people who are on their journey to getting onto the Bitcoin standard, because like that's a freaking journey. You have to question so many aspects of how your mind operates, your incentives, how you were taught. You got to fucking burn it down. You got to find a window to bridge it, and then you got to walk that bridge, and then you got to burn the bridge on the other side. Like those are significant steps before you're on the Bitcoin operating system.
You might say that it's very early in Bitcoin.
We're fucking early. I mean,
early
population
Bitcoin.
divided by 21 million. We're fucking early.
But simultaneously, the system is on a verge of collapse and will benefit tremendously.
Well,
from that.
see again. I think that's
Hey, they're not using their fiat.
Well, no, that's like it's not a fair dig at Bitcoin, right? Like they're separate and mutually exclusive from each other to a certain extent. Like the failure of the fiat system and Bitcoin, maybe Bitcoin's success depends on that a little bit, but Bitcoin is not contributing to the failure of the
I
fiat
don't
system.
think that was my assertion. I think all I was trying to say is that I think that we're able to. I'm just playing around with like the kind of framing here.
I'm really glad that Rizzo's not drinking.
I don't know what I would be saying if I was drunk.
Grab a beer, sir.
Probably just be very.
What
I
do
got
you
it going right here.
What do you think the perfect framing is, or not perfect
I
framing?
don't think there is a perfect framing per se, but I think that you can challenge framing and you can ask about framing. This is again, I think people traffic in absolutes. They want to be a Bitcoiner all the time. They want to be a Republican all the time. People like these like mental constructs that they just find very comforting. They want to think that the world is going to collapse.
Dylan, what do you think?
I think the world's gonna collapse. No, I don't know.
Yeah, but look, I mean, like major religions have been saying that for years. I mean, this is a part of their operating system as well. Like, right? Like I'm Catholic. You know, I'm supposed to believe that at any moment the world could end and the divine,
The rapture's upon us.
You know, everyone will be judged. But that's not how.
Well, everyone is judged at every moment of every day.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, that's a good example of like what's incorrect about their thesis. Then, you know, and do we take them as like obviously because there has been no fall of civilization after 2,000 years, we take Christianity's message of, you know, there being a rapture less seriously. So we're promising a financial rapture.
I mean, civilization has fallen. It's degenerate.
I don't think Bitcoin needs a financial rapture. I think we need to dispel that. I think it's outrageous.
I don't think it does either. That's the point I was trying to get to. Like, I don't think Bitcoin needs it. Obviously, it doesn't. Like, we're using it right now.
So
without that, like the
communism and capitalism remained alongside together for a while.
Yes.
To this day.
Yeah, still to this day.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like
Central banking is a Marxist.
I mean, yeah, sure. We're still grappling with the fact that we have centralizing institutions, but like economic calculations via central coordination, like there was a battle. The battle was concluded. Obviously, you know,
Who says? I mean, I think right now our position with China is the weakest that it's been in decades.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you could say that China is also shooting themselves in the foot by moving away from the free market philosophies that made them relevant again. All I'm trying to say is that like there was this battle. These two side-by-side systems did exist simultaneously, and it fell apart because one system was much better at allocating capital. And I just think that like,
but they do currently coexist.
I think that there's like this reemergence through the corruption of centralized institutions that has, you know, creating
one quarter of the world's population lives in a communist country, like, you know, 1/7.
Okay, a totalitarian country. I don't know if they're actually communist.
Well, that's actually
yeah, I guess that's a fair.
Yeah, with China,
criticism.
it's like the weird, particularly in Bitcoin. For me, somebody who grew up like hearing China's communist. It's very interesting that, in my opinion, the most capitalistic part of Bitcoin to date has been the Chinese mining community, like by far. Like, it's like, wait, how are they the most capitalistic?
Well, those guys were people who grew up with Western values, right? And they broke from their culture, and they ultimately paid a very heavy price because they all got kicked out of the country.
Well, a lot of them.
So I think the Chinese
A lot of them left their country and are doing very good here in the United States.
Sure. I agree.
Yeah.
But I think those guys are hardcore, and like that's the kind of, you know, the Bitcoin asked them to endure that hardship, and they did.
Yeah, like this. Like this machine. It's like
the Camry of Bitcoin miners.
It wasn't that long ago that like these were some of the most maligned people by the Bitcoiners in the West.
Yeah,
Chinese miners. Yeah.
I mean, I honestly think that Bitcoiners don't know what is good for Bitcoin.
I like to think I've been very.
Oh, everything is good for Bitcoin.
Yeah. No, but like when it comes to like
Bitcoiners don't admit that. They think a lot of things are bad for Bitcoin.
I need to say something that Dylan would like. You know.
I think when it comes to like giving the Chinese mining industry like props where props are due, I like to think that.
I mean, they built that without any venture capital. They built it all themselves. They outcompeted literally all of the
rest of the world.
Valley-backed mining companies.
Yeah.
To think, like, one of my favorite dichotomy stories is that, you know, Silicon Valley goes and invests all these millions in 21.co. You know, Silicon Valley like has Intel building mining chips for them in 2014. They have this huge advantage, right? They have the best American manufacturer who's just today entering the market making their chips. This is 2014, and then they go and they totally lose that opportunity to a bunch of Chinese kids who like grew up in like rural nowhere, who like, you know, build mining facilities with 3 fucking walls.
Yeah.
You know, like don't have a ceiling. They got 15 people like sleeping around the mine, and they rose to like actually like they ran the game.
Yeah. They had 60% of the network hash rate until last year.
Yeah. So I think those guys, like talking about getting a raw deal, I think, you know, they really went all out for the coin.
Like,
But at the same time, they knew they went all out, and they felt like the coin owed them something to some degree. And I'm not trying to I'm not trying to throw that on all miners, but there was definitely a cohort within the Bcash
Obviously,
realm.
Jihan,
Yeah, I think
like,
the most underrated of the Chinese Zed is Wang Chun, who's like within the pantheon of Bitcoiners. Like I would say, like top 10,
F2
top 15.
pool.
Yeah, top 10. Top
he might
15.
be the number one Coinbase message troll of all time.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
he did that stuff, which has been fantastic, and then also his undermining of Jian and the activation of Segwit on Litecoin, which was all Wang Chung. I think Wang Chung, but he's somebody nobody knows about, right? Like, and he's
happy about that. His boss freaking 1 Bitcoin donation to Luke Dash Jr. was pretty badass.
Right.
It was 9,999 change transaction.
Yeah.
Oh.
he gave him 1 Bitcoin, 0 fees, mined it with his own pool, gave himself back freaking 9,900 Bitcoin.
Hey.
At Statoshi on Twitter if you're looking to follow somebody. That is the Western perspective does definitely perturb our view of what Bitcoin is, what it has been, and how we think of ourselves and in the context of it. Like, I think going back to like the stablecoin thing, that was a very hard thing, and still is for a lot of people who would consider themselves like hardcore Bitcoiners to stomach. It's like you have to recognize that.
Oh, right now it's serving a needed onboarding function both for Bitcoiners in the developing world and also for people who are not. Right?
Just straight access to dollars.
Yeah,
it's needed.
Yeah, well, that's the other question. Like, is it actually access to dollars or just some synthetic?
That doesn't
dollar?
matter. I mean, are your dollars real? Are dollars in your bank account real?
No.
Like the whole system's fucked.
How do you not square?
point.
Like, you have this like perfect model of like the credit system, but then like nobody really cares if any of this stuff is real. Like literally the stable coins, like nobody cares if they're really backed. So the market still operates like
That's the whole system is the same shit. This is why Bitcoin will ultimately allocate capital better. That's the end game. Is Bitcoin will allocate capital much fucking better than the fiat system, and therefore that's why everyone will migrate it to it, because they will have fun staying poor otherwise.
It's kind of funny. I mean, like I think a hedge fund just took on like a $4 billion short of Tether. They like borrowed.
Oh yeah, that was super weird.
They like got USDC.
Was it Ackman?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I forget who it is. I saw that the other day.
Like, they
just Rizzo, let me finish.
They just borrowed $4 billion of Tether somehow. Sold it and bought USDC or another.
How did they benefit from that trade though?
If Tether collapses, then they cover their shorts and profit the difference.
Yeah, the peg breaks. But the whole Tether like reserves thing, like, I think people severely discount the fact that Bitfinex Tether company was holding Bitcoin in the reserves, right? And they started holding Bitcoin in the reserves like at a way lower price. It's like
well, this is why like on the paper all the Gox people could be made whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother clusterfuck.
Wait. No. Oh yeah. Well, in the US dollar sense.
In the US dollar sense, yeah.
Yeah, like I think I'm contrarian in the world right now. I think Tether is probably like over reserved. Like,
I just feel like this is one of the biggest differences between the Bitcoin system and the fiat system and cryptocurrency system that we don't talk about. Whereas like Bitcoin is very logical, like it needs to add up, and it has this mathematical certainty. And then the rest of the system is just like it can just operate on anything. Like literally, it doesn't have to make any sense. And like,
it's clown world.
How is that not a strategic advantage for that system? That I can just literally wipe this like.
It works until it doesn't, right?
There are trade-offs, Pete, and it exists within a world where Bitcoin also exists, and then you have to weigh the capping out the advantages and disadvantages within capital allocation.
Like there's
between
no
both systems.
so like there's no current equation that sums up why life in the universe exists. Like you can't math that out. So therefore, the universe exists in a way that is like mathematically improbable. Like we don't know how to define that. So then why should that apply to economics?
As a good Catholic, I want to thank you, God.
There's been a lot of religious big ups in this conversation.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, hey, there's a lot of like kind of religious kind of trends that emerge within Bitcoin.
I said the universe and the fiat system are all both infinitely expanding.
Yeah.
It's just a question of how fast they're expanding and when they dissipate.
Yeah. Like, is the fiat system just the universe on another scale?
God,
Like, is that,
God, this is not.
Yes, I win.
It's not.
It's not. No, everything is math.
Yeah, it's all fractals.
Except the universe.
The universe is fractals, Rizzo.
Yeah. Maybe Bitcoin was the one equation for the universe. Wow, you're all gonna.
That's
like
bullish.
That. I knew that. I knew you were gonna like
Tweet it. Tweet it.
So bullish.
Tweet it.
Maybe it was Einstein's equation for the world.
Let's
I don't
get
know.
cosmic.
Yeah.
I just felt like we had to push that there because that was what was expected of us after.
That'd probably
that.
get like 10,000 likes on Twitter.
Can I just say that this might be the only podcast where no one addressed the freaks on TFTC? So
Oh, big up to the freaks.
kind of a disappointment. But
Wait, what do you mean?
Marty did.
I said, what's up, freaks?
oh well, none of us did.
What up, freaks?
Hey, sorry for the bearish stuff. I guess.
No,
God, I thought we were gonna talk about Bitcoin Magazine, and then it's just
I plugged a
the
little
Rizzo Bear
I
Diaries.
plugged it. I plugged it. I was trying to plug it. I was talking about the comedians that we're having and the celebrities.
That's a
and,
conference.
You know, like Derek Zoolander was like the beautiful celebrities.
Fuck the celebrities.
Uh,
The best things about the conference is the fact that there's going to be 30,000 fucking Bitcoiners coming together in one place. The fact that these celebrities are there, that's because they're serving us, so they can get down on their knees and continue to.
they're serving us.
They're serving the Bitcoiners. We are really important, and they want to entertain our demographic.
So I was talking with Pierre yesterday about this. I was like, I think what we could do is like, do you think it's still too late for us to get the Guinness Book of World Records? We can do the world's largest smash buy. We can just have 20,000 people smash buy.
I think Cash App would
We
love
tried that at Bitcoin 2019, and the price immediately went.
But like, you get 20,000 people just smash buy. You bring Sailor on the stage and he smash buys and then
On
Cosmo
Cash
smash
App.
He just smash buys
Everybody's
10,000
smash buys.
Bitcoin.
The crowd would like be
hilarious.
really into it. Everybody. just
I
smash
think
buys.
we should put it into the programming. Let's hit up P.
Hey, we started the smash buy in 2019.
Yeah, it has to
okay?
be a. It has to be a.
We
Guinness
in the
Book of World
programming we're
Records.
gonna credit Marty and Matt and just say like
Guinness Book of World Records.
smash
largest-
by in honor of TFTC
It's
2019.
like what a funny entry where it's
We
like
smash-
largest cryptocurrency smash buy.
Honestly, that's how we get Hyperbitcoinization. Is
Yeah.
we orange pill people via
Right.
that record.
Right. Because we don't have any records in there. I don't think. Right. Like, is there a Bitcoin record in there?
You don't want to get us book of records.
I mean, it's a long blockchain
Fiat.
of human achievement. It is the longest running blockchain of human achievement.
I don't know about that.
Is that, remember buying the Guinness Book of World Records as a kid?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, kids
Mhm.
kids love that stuff, right? You gotta earn. You gotta get them while they're young.
Speaking of getting them while you're young, I want to bring it up. When we were at Cooper's last night, the gentleman we were with noticed the kid had to be like 13 years old. And he was like buying NFTs and just like asked him questions. And I wanted to bring this up because it's like, all right, what do the youth think of this? Like, are they even thinking of Bitcoin? And I was asking this guy, he was like, why are you buying these NFTs? He was like, oh, because celebrities are talking about them. He was like, like, do you like it? Like, why do you get into NFTs? He's like, oh, I want to get into investing. This kid's like 13. And he's like, do you own it? What cryptocurrencies do you own? He's like, yeah, just NFTs and ETH. He's like, you don't own any Bitcoin? It's like, no. So that made me wonder, how is Gen Z viewing this stuff?
I mean, I think you know the answer to that, and I think it's very unfavorable.
Yeah. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like,
Well, we have a Gen Zer right here.
Yeah, I mean, we have no capital, so I mean,
this kid was slanging NFTs last night.
yeah.
His parents' capital.
I mean, I've orange pilled quite the lot of my fellow Zoomers, but more broadly, it's definitely more of a crypto focus,
Yeah.
for better or worse.
Yo, like, I don't think Bitcoiners need to be concerned about the crypto focus. Like, the crypto focus is like an incremental step to Bitcoining. It's just
I
an
agree.
incremental step.
I'm not concerned about it. I'm just like interested. Like, these kids.
Yeah, stupid kids gonna listen to celebrities, get burnt, gonna grow up, buy Bitcoin.
Or work.
Part of the process. Or
They
have
will-
fun
they
staying
will-
poor.
They will work for Bitcoin.
Yes.
Sure, just like the celebrities are gonna serve us at the conference.
What do we solve during this conversation? Are we solving anything?
We learned that Bitcoin has solved the universal equation.
The world is
end.
ending. Buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Or the only way to save the planet is by buying Bitcoin,
Yeah.
which I endorse that message.
It's one or the other. Like, it has
It's
to be
both.
one or
It's
the-
both.
No, what do you got to anchor yourself to is like blocks are produced. if you want to send a transaction, will likely get included in the block. Like, you can't think about the price. You can't try to time the fiat world either. Like, I remember 2013, 2014, when I first got into Bitcoin, I was making my wife cry at brunches. She was my girlfriend then. We were long distance. She'd come to Chicago. And I'd just like lock myself in a room that week, like learning about Bitcoin. She shows up and I'd nobody to vent about my Bitcoin views on. And then we'd go to brunch and she'd be crying by the end because I'd be like, it's all going to fall. It was like around your age. Like,
Oh,
it was like, it's all going to break down.
The math
We need to
doesn't
buy-
add up.
It's literally a Ponzi.
It's like, oh,
People are going to be starving. So like thinking like, I've been
that's
there.
tough, yeah.
Well, see, the thing is that none of that's gonna happen because Bitcoin exists. So we'll be
No,
all right.
this
We'll
is
be
like
all right,
a-
fam.
This is a comment more towards like, all right, you can think like the world's ending, but it's not.
I just think the world has a long history of not ending that we need to acknowledge.
Yeah.
In this conversation.
And we are here.
I second
Yeah,
that. The world's not gonna end, and yeah, we're gonna keep innovating with Bitcoin. So that's why we there's hope.
Yes, there is. Who's that looking
That's Jimmy Song.
at? Jimmy.
Yeah, he wants your attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all, as someone who's gonna completely dethrone Austin, it's pretty impressive. Pretty fucking impressive how many Bitcoiners we've been just rubbing shoulders with by being here. So it's
The
been a fun
Bitcoin
time.
Commons is a pretty chill place.
Yes, sir.
Pretty chill place.
So Marty, I think we have to have a bet.
Oh God.
I think if an Austonian moves to Nashville, then I need to get some sats, and then if a Nashvilleian moves to Austin, then I can pay you out some sats.
No, I'm not making that bet.
No confidence.
Because all it takes is one.
No confidence.
We need like a list of people.
I mean, verified Bitcoiner.
Huh? What is a Bitcoiner?
Don't talk to Pete Rizzo. This is that was some Pete Rizzo bullshit. There are
100%
Bitcoiners.
correct about that.
There are
You can
Bitcoiners,
identify as
and
a
they Bitcoin
Bitcoiner.
all the time.
There are no Bitcoiners. You can identify as a Bitcoiner.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's moving to Nashville. I mean, no. I don't like that bet. I don't like
Okay,
that
see,
bet.
no confidence.
It's
It's
just not.
fine.
It's just not exciting enough.
All
Not
right.
exciting enough.
Whatever.
I need to be thrilled if I'm going to bet. Matt always has the worst bets too.
You know, we can bet on them shaving their mustaches, like when everyone's going to shave
Who
their
does it
mustaches.
first? Oh, that's a good one. Who's going to shave their mustache first?
Dylan, what was it like being a openly mustached Bitcoiner?
It was great. got a lot of compliments.
Boss.
Not really.
Was that your?
It was a
first-
pretty
first
bad
time with a
mustache.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was my first committed stash, but mom wasn't a fan.
My wife makes me immediately like I'll do the thing where I'll grow my beard and then I'll shave it all but my stash and I'll walk out. She's like, yeah.
Honestly, you could rock it. You got.
Oh,
you
yeah, I
could
definitely
rock the
could.
fireman, policeman look. Like,
Whoa.
So we're getting deep into the fantasies here. Yeah.
All right.
comment.
I gotta take a piss. Should we keep it going and I'll come back, or
Bitcoin in 2022 in 22 days. But
Go to
by the time this
b.tc/conference.
airs, yeah, I don't know.
use the code?
It's airing right now, so 23 days.
Oh, okay.
But
I just
yeah.
got an email. There's gonna be like a live broadcast.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Do you want to be on the news desk?
Yeah. Was I not supposed to mention that? or-
No, that's great.
Yeah, I'll do it. I
Alright.
got to sit there for 2 hours and just talk about what's going on.
Hey.
Yeah.
No, y'all. If you're not gonna be there, watch the live stream. But if you can be there, you need to. Bitcoin 22 is an investment in yourself. Truly.
I mean, it is fun getting together with Bitcoiners.
And you can arbitrage dollars by spending them on the conference.
That's true. Or you can give us Bitcoin and get a 30% discount. But
And you can be
Who's
part
counting?
of the Guinness Book of World Record breaking record smash.
I wonder how hard they must have somebody on standby, right? Like in case something happens. It's like
we should coordinate that.
urgently some sort of record, 'Cause, right? Like how do you know when a record?
We'll put you on the task.
I mean,
Yeah, thanks.
you could probably look at book order. Like Cash App probably has that data.
Yeah, large. They would like to be in that. That's a good sponsor perk. You know, you
Yeah.
got you in the Guinness Book of
Thank
World
you, Cash
Records. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also sponsor the pod.
Not right now, but we'll get them back.
Oh, okay. Well, you
Yikes.
shouldn't have smashed by it. With
Goddamn.
Yeah. No, Cash App's a very, very fun partner of TFTC. Bitcoin 2022, man.
I can send you some of the Bitcoin that I purchased. Making a transaction that thereby increases the health of the network.
Yeah. Well, again, we did the smash buy 2019. Obviously, there wasn't as many people there, but we went into a 2-year bear market after that. Or,
Well, that's not good.
We were in the midst of a bear market.
no, we were going up to $14,000 back. Yeah,
I mean, that was pretty much all plus token.
was a plus token.
I think like they started dumping. So
Yeah, we smashed by, and then we didn't hit the bottom until March 12th.
honestly, Bitcoin 2019 was really special. Like we're all hanging out there, watching talks, and then every single time a talk was over, the price would come back up, and it'd be like $1,000 more.
I found out I was having my wife was pregnant with my son at Bitcoin 2019. I went on to go do a panel discussion with Drew Unsolved from Unchained and Zach Prince from BlockFi. And right before I walk on stage, my wife's like, "I'm pregnant." I was like, "What the fuck? I'm about to go on stage for the first time in front of a couple thousand people. That's awesome. Thanks." I was like up there, like trying to talk about multi-sig. I was like, "Oh fuck, I'm your dad."
Well, cheers to you, man. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing event, and honestly, like looking back, it's just incredible to see going from like, 1,800 people to like now we're talking about 20,000 people plus.
Yeah.
And I mean, as much as like I would want to take credit for like making a big event and a great event, like it's really like the Bitcoiners that need to take credit, because like back then the Bitcoin industry could only support 1,800 people at a conference, and now we're talking about the Bitcoin industry can support 30,000 people at a conference. And I mean, like we couldn't do like that's not us, like that's the Bitcoin industry. So I think it's like it's really jaw dropping.
We exist to serve people who are interested in Bitcoin and who may identify as Bitcoin.
Speaking about serving, you aren't serving seed oils at this conference, are you?
I mean,
Sure, why not?
not that I plan on, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of food trucks there. Can't make any promises on.
Here comes Rizzo
what
on the
they're
case
doing.
of why seed oils are good.
I don't know anything about seed oils. I just respect
Canola
my-
oil is good for you.
Yeah, respect
Why do
your
I- why
your
do
gut
I-
biome.
Why do I want to
Rizzo.
even take the time to interface with that argument?
For your health.
Why did that even come up, Marty? Are you concerned about seed oils?
Yeah, seed oils is my favorite meme right
I like
now.
meat. I like vegetables. I like things that don't fall into those categories. I'll eat whatever.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I'm drinking beer right now.
I'm drinking. Is there any seed oils in Shinerbach? I don't know if
There's wheat.
there's wheat.
I put the anti-seed oil stuff like up there with the tungsten cubes. They're just
No, they're completely different.
they're the
Completely
same.
different. Tungsten. Tungsten is a shitcoin.
Keep stacking sats, freaks.
All right. We'll see you guys at Bitcoin 2022. I'm about to piss myself.
Read Bitcoin Magazine.
We definitely don't want to end the episode with that. That would be really bleak ending.
It's going to be worth it, right, guys?
What?
This life. Bitcoin, the conference. I'm kidding.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, Jesus Christ. I mean, we've all been there. We know how it's going to
be
be.
worth
we
it.
haven't even really got into the the bear market yet. You can't be saying things.
Shut
like
up.
No, I
You
mean,
can't be questioning the worth of the.
there's absolutely no question in my mind that if you don't invest in yourself and buy a conference ticket, at least you can buy Bitcoin, but you're going to be regretful.
Where can we buy conference tickets?
B.tc/conference.
And what code should they use?
What would you say to people who would rather take that
TFTC.
money and stack sats?
That's fine. Watch it on live stream.
Okay. So you're not going to make it.
Marty's literally about to piss himself right now. His legs
Let's,
No, I'll be
let's
fine.
make
I'll be
this take
fine.
longer.
You're not going to.
I'm actually good at holding my pee. I can hold my pee.
You're not going to make an argument that they should buy conference tickets over Bitcoin.
Well, they just hate themselves. It's fine.
Hey, I bought chairs for this studio.
I'm sitting in a chair.
He's you can't replace the experience of the conference, even with sats.
Sure. Yeah.
I honestly think going to the conference is going to help you make more sats and hang out with more Bitcoiners, so I encourage it.
Well, I mean, story that I heard recently, last year, Natalie Brunell was there handing out T-shirts for Coin Stories. Like, literally showed up, bought a ticket as an attendee. Was like doing her own merch, and now she's going to be on the main stage. Met Bitcoiner, she got involved. She got on Peter McCormick's podcast, or did a podcast with McCormick, and the rest is history. Dreams are made at Bitcoin 2022.
Well, that dream was made at Bitcoin 2021.
Right.
New dreams will be made
At the Bitcoin conference.
2022.
It doesn't
Bitcoin
matter what
conference.
year. That's for sure.
All right. B.tc/conference. Come join some fellow Bitcoiners. We're going to smash by into the Guinness Book of World Records. And it's going to be...
to make that happen now.
It's going to be incredible. Gentlemen, let's go have a night.
All right. Cheers, Marty. Thanks.